Hi, everyone, and welcome to Becky.works. Today, we're talking about something that's becoming a real challenge for many companies: AI threats and social engineering. You've probably heard of deepfakes, voice cloning, or fake emails from someone pretending to be your manager. These things are no longer rare. So, how can we spot these attacks and help our team stay safe? I'm joined by Joram Kruijer, head of IT at Becky.works. Joram, thanks for joining. Can you start by telling us a bit about your background?
Thank you for having me. I'm Joram. I'm Becky's head of IT. I've been with the company since it started, and I have a background in computer science. And I'm very excited to talk about some of the threats that all companies right now face.
So, what exactly is social engineering? Why is it such a concern for businesses today?
Well, social engineering is when you use psychological traits of people to get them to do something. It can be an action, it can be them divulging information. And it's not necessarily pure manipulation. It's more like having a fun conversation with someone in a bar, asking them a couple of questions, and those questions turn out to be along the lines of your birth date, the street where you grew up, and the name of your first pet, which, especially at some older companies, are still like the password recovery questions. It's becoming more and more of an issue because the landscape in IT has moved forward by quite a bit. Security has improved. We see that there's way more focus on information security in general. And then, of course, the employees become, well, maybe not the weakest link, but the obvious point of pressure for any attacker or any hacker. And this is a pretty easy way to go about it by using their very trusting attitude in general.
One thing we're hearing more is about impersonation, when people are pretending to be a manager or CEO. What kind of tricks do attackers use to make that look real?
It even has a name by now, CEO fraud. It's like a real thing. It can be as simple as just sending a pretty poor email or text message just signed with the name of the CEO and hoping that people will just not look twice and just execute whatever's in there. But we also see much more sophisticated attacks nowadays. It can be a really identical email created, even the same diction, the same punctuation as the CEO, asking you to do anything from sending money to sending confidential client information. And of course, now with the advances in AI, we see that this has become much more sophisticated and much easier to execute.
Right. And what types of AI threats are we actually seeing out there?
Well, you already have the voice cloning ability, right? Nowadays, with software like 11 Labs, but there's many others, where you can clone someone's voice using only a 30-second snippet. So this video, as far as we are now, is enough to clone my voice and make a very believable phone call. Just type in the text, add the voice, and you can suddenly impersonate me. We also see with the advances in deepfake technology, but also AI video creation, that it becomes much easier to impersonate someone where the person on the other line cannot believe their eyes or ears anymore. There was a case in the beginning of 2024 where this financial employee of an Asian company had a conference call invite. He joined it. There was his CEO and some other people he recognized, and they all sounded the same. And he was instructed to wire 25 million US dollars, which after the meeting he did. But all the participants in the meeting, the CEO, it was all fake. It's deep fake. So it's very, very difficult to recognize this. And he said it felt real. They sounded real. There were people he recognized, but the whole meeting was fake.
Yeah, that sounds really convincing.
Yeah.
So, what can employees do to recognize when something feels off?
I think it's very important to listen to your gut feeling a little bit. Also, think if the question that you're being asked is within a normal job description. Would be weird, for instance, if someone asks me to transfer a lot of money. I mean, I'm not on the finance department. The other thing is very important to do if you get a question that deals with sending out data or transferring money, any of these things that are valuable to the company in itself because they're trade secrets or data from one of the clients. There's nothing against it. Just ending the conversation there and calling someone back on the number that you have of them, not rejoin the same meeting with the same link or call back from the number you were called on. Just simply use the channels that you normally use to communicate with whoever asks you this question. Call them up, and if they say, "Yeah, yeah, I just had a meeting with you," just it's fine. Transfer it. Sure, it's a legitimate request, probably. But there's a chance they'll say, like, we didn't have a meeting. I'm not even in the office today. So just stop, think, and pick up the phone if you're in doubt.
It makes sense. But in those moments, people still make mistakes.
Of course, yeah, that's why they're targeting it. It's a human thing to make mistakes.
What do they usually get wrong?
I think the biggest thing they get wrong is um, just acting out of impulse. You get an email stating, can be something really, really simple. Like you get, this is actually something I saw a couple of months ago. You get an email from someone you've had contact with before. And it's just says like, hey, I've sent you this in this document. Could you look over it and tell me if you agree with the contents? And it just contains this, let's say, Google Drive link. You can just click on the link and you're led to a login page, and you have to log in again to view it. And that's of course like a password capture thing. From that moment, they have your login information, they can see your emails, and they can start sending it to your other contacts. And they're with this like furthering the scam. Um, you gotta wonder a little bit, like if it's a bit odd to start sharing documents with people in such a way, like just with a very brief description. There was also someone who was really cautious about this, emailed back, and he got back this really in broken English, this message saying like, yeah, just click the link, which is of course very odd. And if you see a login page, just really check that the URL makes sense. And worst case, you can always call someone up and ask them for information and say like, "Hey, did you actually send me this? It's kind of odd. Why did you send me this?"
Prevention is key, of course.
100%. Yeah.
But if a breach does happen, what's the first thing a company should do? And what can be done in advance to prevent that from happening?
Okay, so I think the most important thing here is to first look to the extent of the breach. Like, was it one employee that was targeted, or did everybody get this email? Of course, the employees that received this may have clicked on it. Just revoke their passwords, revoke all of the active sessions, and very important, let the clients know that this happened, right? Because they might have received something that they shouldn't click on, they shouldn't act on, they shouldn't reply to. Uh, and be open to your employees what went wrong and say like, hey, this is, it's an obvious thing. It went wrong. It shouldn't have, but it did. What happened? How could you have spotted this? How could you prevented this? And I think a very big factor in everything is two-factor authentication, right? If your password does get leaked, or you do enter it, and at the last thing you think, oh, that's of course that's wrong. At least you have that to save you from this. And on the other hand, use a password manager, use two-factor authentication. Don't send stuff when people ask you over the email. Right? Really stop, think, and if you have doubts, just verify it. There's nothing against making a phone call.
And how do we prepare our team to deal with all of this?
So we actually already had a training with this about 2, maybe even 3 years ago. It's also been a standard part of our onboarding flow for new employees at Becky, that they all go through this e-learning module about these specific things. We spend a lot of attention on this, uh, because in the end we can lock everything down as good as we can. But if the employee basically lets someone through the front door and inside, then there's very little we can do to really prevent it. So it's been part of the standard training of Becky since for years at this point.
Thanks, Joram, for sharing your insights. We hope to have you back for another Becky Talks soon.
Love to do it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks everyone for watching, and see you next time.